Hey, what's going on, everyone? Todd Castellan here. Gonna do a little preview for y'all's next tournament. Pretty cool, man. I looked at y'all's deal. Y'all did had a really good tournament. January, man. January is like the hardest month of the year in my opinion. Like it's not even close. January is by far the hardest month of the year to catch fish. Looked like y'all went out there and caught them. Congratulations to Maverick Winford and Ian Ratliff. Man, 19 pounds, 1971, I think it was. Had a big fish of like, I think 634 for their bag. Man, that's anytime you mess around with that 20-pound mark, man, that's pretty awesome. I saw some other teams as well got up in there around the 17, 18-pound mark. I think there was 8-pounder caught too in that event. Man, that's just anytime you catch something like that, that's pretty awesome, man. I don't even know, maybe that might have even been their biggest fish ever. So that's really cool. So let's get this thing started off, man. It's going to be in February, right? And I'll go ahead right on to just the fishing report this time. You know, I think we're having some really mild days out here. The winter's not as cold as it has been in years past, so that's really good. Thank goodness the water's not up, 14 foot. We're getting some rain, but it's not really making the lake come up that much to make that big of a deal. It is gonna change some things, but not too much. And I'll get into that. So let's just dive right on into the fishing report. Rayburn is really interesting right now, and as you'll see, like the tour is going on. We've had some rattle trap tournaments going on. We've had a lot of things going on, and if you watch. If you ask my opinion, the weights haven't really been that good of years past. It's not taking very big weights to win. No one's catching a lot of big bags. And if you really pay attention, and y'all really need to pay attention to this because me and a couple buddies, we talk about this all the time. We always pay attention to the weights, not the winning weight and not the worst weight, but all those weights in between. And what you're really seeing is the guys that have 20 pounds have like a big one or two big ones. And even the guys that are having 16, 17, 18 pounds, they're still having a 7, 8, 9-pounder to go with it, which tells you two things. One, big fish mean a lot right now. And it's fairly easy to catch 2.5, 2 3/4 pound fish. I'm not saying it's very easy. It's still hard. But there are no 3 and 4-pounders being caught right now. There are not a lot of 3 to 4 to 5-pounders being caught. We've been noticing this for months. I'm not saying anything's wrong with the lake or anything, but this is just what happens. Like we've seen this for 20 years, where there's not a lot of big fish sometimes, there's not a lot of small fish. There's classes of fish sometimes that are missing, and there's definitely a group of fish missing right now that are, if I'm not saying they're gone, but they're sure not being caught. So when I say take that into consideration, that big fish are a real big key right now. That's pretty much the only way to get your weight up there. Where in years past, you could catch all 5-pounders and weighing 25 pounds. That hasn't happened in months now on the lake. So it's something to think of. The lake is, like I said, not much different than what it was when y'all were out there last. It's coming up a little bit. The water temp's probably going to be the same too. I mean, I don't see anything crazy weather-wise coming y'all's way. So they're not really looking to spawn, and I'll touch up on that. These fish on Rayburn, they live up shallow anyways. A lot of them do, and then there's some that live way on out there deep. And right now it seems like they're kind of spread out from one end to the other. I mean, you can catch one in a foot and you can catch one in 30. And those fish up shallow, they're getting up there, but they still know it's like early or late January, early February. They know they're probably still not going to spawn for another 3 weeks to a month. And it doesn't matter if it gets warm. Some of them might move up there, but chances are the ones that are already up there, they just live up there anyway. So they're going to hang out there regardless of whether how cold it gets or how warm it gets. They're staying there. The other ones that are out deeper, maybe in the 20 to 25, those are the ones you really got to pay attention on if it starts warming up. They're not going to push all the way up there in 5. But what they'll do is they'll start pushing up there in that 8 to 10 to 12 range. And those are the fish that kind of are somewhat pretty. If you can find those fish, which sometimes are the hardest ones because sometimes they move day to day, those are the fish you can really get big on. Those are the ones you can catch some a big weight and possibly win this second event. Problem with that is they're very hard fish to find, stay on top of, and like I said, they're moving. So right now what's going on is January is kind of a weird deal. Fish seem to do the same thing on these lakes, and what I mean by that is they either stay in the grass or they stay in a ditch or they're way out deep, and so there's not a lot of movement to them. They kind of do those three things. In February they start to do all kinds of things, but one thing I wanted y'all to really focus on is this. In February, and it's more of this kind of like pre-spawn deal, they're in grass a lot of times, but what they do is they start hanging out on the edges of grass. And so it's either an inside edge or an outside edge. And you can still catch them in the grass, but you'd be surprised how many of them are off on those edges. And I want y'all to remember that edges. Like the edges of stuff start to hold a lot more fish this time of year, and they start to group up. And that's kind of what we're going to focus on. Now that edge might be grass growing on a point, right, of a flat, and the grass ends up stopping. And a lot of times they might be right on that edge, a little hole right inside. They're liable to be 20, 30 feet away from the edge, but they're still sitting in that one little area, you know, off the edge of it. They like to use those edges right now more than ever. And so, like I said, we talked about the red eye and throwing some, you know, like a thunder cricket and some of those baits up in the grass, and those are still going to work, but you're going to find that there's a lot of other ways to catch them. So what I wanted to show y'all is like the grass is still at the same depth. As the water comes up this time of the year and it's slowly inching up, the grass is going to continually be a little bit deeper under the water now. And so I like to throw like either this 4.0, of course the Rayburn red color, or you know, something like this. This is a pretty cool bait. It's their 1.5 flat side. And that flat side, if you'll see, John Cox was using it a lot too. People throw a lot of flat-sided crankbaits in the wintertime or at this time of the year, especially when the water's cooler and stuff like that. That's a very subtle bait. So I want y'all to remember, it's like if it's really, really cold or really, really calm, that bait's really good. Especially even too in the summertime. The sunny time of the day. That bait's real subtle, and so you can just barely kind of work it through the grass. It's not doing a lot of movement, and it sometimes works better than say this 4.0. This is like when it's blowing outside, it's cloudy, it's nasty, and you want to get to the same depth. I'll throw this. It creates a lot more vibration. It's bigger, and chances are those times when it's like that, those weather conditions, that's really when they're eating a lot and really going after stuff hard. So pick the day, pick that right bait, either subtle if it's calm, or like a 4.0 that's got a lot of movement, a lot of vibration. Pick something like that if it's cloudy, windy, or man, if it's really going good, like they're really biting, throw that one, because you're liable to just catch one of the biggest fish of your lives. So that's what I want y'all to focus on. Those both go like 6 to 8 foot. And if you notice, a lot of the grass that tops out at 2 or 3, which is good for the red eye and the chatterbait, but those deeper edges, and it might be a channel on the edge of a channel or something, you can throw that in the middle of that channel and not really get hung up on stuff, or on the edge of some of that deeper grass. You might not get as many bites. Chances are they're going to be a lot bigger fish though. And that's me, man. I'm always just going after my 5 biggest ones. And so try that the next time y'all are out there. The second thing that's going on is this. I kind of talked about an inside edge. That was the outside. This is the inside. Here's the inside. The inside is, you're probably not going to be able to like throw any kind of bait on the inside edges. The water hasn't come up enough to where you have like what I would call an inside edge, is where you'd have grass stop and there's still clean bottom before you hit the bushes. Usually now the grass stops right up next to some hay or bushes. Once you kind of get in some of those bushes and some of that hay, there's still an inside clean bottom in there, but it just might be in the bushes, if that makes sense. Well, that's when the swim jig is going to come into play, right? There's a Hagerty Strike King swim jig, 1/2 ounce. Now you can throw something like this in there and work that water instead of like your regular, Thunder Cricket or anything else like that. This is more of a subtle bait and it's more versatile. It's way more versatile. This is probably, I actually like to throw this more than like a Thunder Cricket when you're getting up around that. It's a lot more weedless, and you're able to do two things with it. Now, this is the swim jig, the regular style swim jig. Here's my trick. I throw a ton of structure bugs. Okay, structure jigs, right? With a structure bug on there or something else. There's a 1/2 ounce and a 3/4. Now, you're probably gonna wonder why I've got this 3/4 ounce. Here's the reason. If you're going out there and throughout the day, y'all sometimes don't know, those fish will change. So you might be swimming one and you can have your partner throw behind you, right? And he's throwing behind you and he might have the jig on too, but instead he's kind of like throwing it out there, letting it fall a little bit, working it that way. And if you're swimming that jig, a foot underneath the surface or even 6 inches or however you want to swim it, the guy in the front can do that. The guy in the back can flip at things and then kind of work it closer to the bottom or a little bit slower. The heavier the jig, a lot of times you want something that you wanted to work really, really fast and really, really hard, then you can get away with a 3/4 ounce. And a lot of people don't do this. I personally do a lot because I want a fast reaction strike. Even like when you're throwing a red eye in the grass, you're ripping it through there. And a lot of times they only bite it when you're ripping it, like that really, really fast movement. And so you kind of want to mess around with your jigs to see if you want it a little slower, a little faster, to be up high or to be down deep. You can work that 3/4 ounce down deeper, but you can work it faster down deeper if they want something fast. If they're really sluggish that day, you can go with a 1/2 ounce or even a 1/4 ounce and work it really, really slow, high on top of the water. But that's what I wanted to tell y'all. Y'all have got 2 people in there in your boat. Take advantage of those times. Get 2 of y'all doing 2 different things, working it 2 different ways. And so sometimes with that structure jig, it's a great all-around jig. I know it says structure jig on it, but I flip with it, I swim it, I throw it out deep. I do a lot of things with it because I love the way the hook angle is and the way it's shaped. But that way you can possibly throw it next to a tree, let it fall down, work it for a little bit, and then kind of swim it back. You might find that that's the way to get all the bites. So keep that in mind with those baits. Right now, I'll show y'all another trick that y'all probably never seen before people do. This is a kind of a weird bait from Strike King. You don't hear about it much. It's called a space monkey, okay? And if you notice, it's got really, really big flappers on it. And right now, the water's usually a little bit muddier this time of the year because we get a little bit of rain and stuff. And fish really like some movement right now, like something to get their attention. So what you can do is you can either throw this on the back of it. Now, I wouldn't leave it just like this. I would cut this part of it and cut these off to where you're just going to have this. I show you all this because here's a trick that you've probably never seen before. That jig's great, and sometimes they'll eat it. But man, you can throw this Texas rig and do the exact same thing, right? So you can flip this bait out there. But if you have this on a Texas rig, just regular with a weight, with a hook through there, and start reeling this thing, if you notice, it's very flat. Okay? See how flat that is right there? And this thing swims phenomenal. So when you start reeling on it, it doesn't roll over. It swims perfect. So you can reel it back and it'll look just like a swim jig. But this is 100%, if you rig it Texas style, 100% weedless, right? So now you can flip it in a bush. You can flip it next to a tree and really work it all through the nastiest stuff. And you can then start slowly swimming it back. And you'll see that the tails on it just go crazy and it'll stay flat and it'll look really good. So there's another option other than a swim jig is to try something like this. It's called a space monkey, kind of a crazy name, right? But I mean, this is something different. And look, guys, that's what we're trying to do out there. There was a rattle trap tournament the other day. There was the tour event. There was another local lake that was going on at the same time as the tour event on Sunday. So there's there's all these events that are piling upon each other. There's a lot of fishing pressure on the lake. And if they've seen a bunch of jigs or they've seen a bunch of vibrating baits, you throw something out there that they haven't seen, that people, you do something a little bit different, that could get you 4, 5, 6 extra bites a day. So pay attention to that. I wanted to share with y'all too. So most of the stuff, especially these swim jigs, you want a reel, a rod and reel that really fit that. And this is the reel I usually throw. It's a straight up Blues BB1. This is, to me, it's their speed spool. This to me is like the best all around reel. I don't know how many of them I have. It's fairly inexpensive compared to a lot of reels out there. It's a 7-to-1. I bring that up because these baits you're throwing, you're going to be reeling it a lot, but you're actually they're gonna bite it, and you're really gonna have to set into them pretty hard and reel as fast as you can. The shallower they are, the quicker they're liable to take off. And so you got to be able to really, really catch up to them. And to me, you can throw braid on this, you can throw fluorocarbon, you can throw everything. Now, back when I was younger, I used to throw braid on a lot of my swim jigs. I've actually gone away from that. I think they work a lot better on straight fluorocarbon. And what's really cool about fluorocarbon is they make it now where you can buy 25-pound fluorocarbon. That stuff is almost impossible to break. It's really tough. And so you can flip with it. You can throw that swim jig on it. You can do a lot of things. So I throw a 25-pound Sunline, either the shooter or the sniper. Doesn't really matter to me. And that's a great line. You can put it on there. And man, I think you'll really like it. And it's not as the braid has some good things, going on with it. But for throwing a swim jig, you're not always going to be throwing it in the thickest stuff. A lot of times, like I said, you're going to be reeling out and they're going to hit it away from stuff. So I think that braid and some other stuff, you can really see it, and it's really abrasive to the eye, and the fish can see it. I think that fluorocarbon just looks better. I think it makes it work better. You can slow it down, you can flip it. So do that. Like I said, good luck out there. It's gonna be pretty. It should be getting better than it was in January. We've always said in February, it's like a light switch, man. They really start to act a lot different once February starts. And so it should be a little bit better. They should be a little bit more shallower. There should be a lot more fish actually pushing up shallow. And when I say shallow, anything from like 10 foot or less. So they'll start to group up more and get in these little, like I said, these edges of grass and the edges of drains, or right in the middle of the drain, but there's still a little bit of grass in there. Look for all those things when you're out there. But if you want to go the opposite direction, you want to go straight up there shallow, because you think, man, maybe we had a little bit of warming trend, try those out. All this stuff, man, you can go up there to Tackle Addict. Shane will hook y'all up. He has everything out there like this. And so check him out when you're down there. Good luck to y'all guys, man. I really hope y'all catch them. I'll be paying attention. I'll be watching. I really want to see one of y'all catch a 10-pounder out there, man. I want to see a 10-pounder try to get weighed in this last tournament. I think there's some big ones out there going to start showing up, and I think y'all have a good chance of doing it. So good luck, and I'll be paying attention, man.